huge drive to get here. Huge. But what a view, right? It's amazing. People are incredible. It's huge. Practicing for our next president.
So I drove over for Jim, and also, sir, because I saw the great pictures of Kevin and Tracy Mayberry taking bricks. Oh, yeah. So I have to go over and check this out. So I'll make sure to introduce Senator Kevin Mayberry. Thank you, Jacob. Very quick story on small crowds. Donna Sykeck tells a story of where she was with the wrong rate, and they were driving through somewhere in New Hampshire, and the staff comes out all like, Governor, I'm so sorry. And they walk, like, let's go. All the cameras are there. There were 5 people in the room. So it's Ronald Reagan, Donna Sykeck, and 5 people. The cameras outnumbered that. And President Reagan, being Reagan, just said, this is great, because it's about quality, not quantity. Because each of you are going to go tell your friends about Jim Lawrence. You're going to take a couple people to the polls to help our entire ticket. You're also going to put some signs for a bumper sticker on your car. The best donation is actually a bumper sticker. It's a $250 donation on your car, put on there. That's how much advertising you do for Jim. If you can't write a check, you probably didn't walk here, just put a bumper sticker on your car. Makes all the difference. I worked for Governor Lamar Alexander when he was running for president. Good guy, Secretary of Education, Governor of Tennessee. We went up to Tamworth, New Hampshire. Staffer comes out, I've seen that job before. Man, I'm so sorry. Why? And I'm gritting my teeth. Why? There's one person in there. So Lamar Alexander, CNN, bring the cameras, everyone's with us. And he's like, well, you know what? I'm going to go in that room, and I'm going to get that vote, and we are not going to leave until I get that vote. So never ever worry about small crowds. Presidential candidates do 1 to 5. It's a vote, it's the amplification, and no one can amplify his message any better than our candidate at the time, really introduce him. Jim Lawrence.
Before I get started, I just have to say something about Matt Mayberry. New Hampshire, everybody thinks of it as a small state, but I can tell you, traveling almost across this entire state, when you're driving day in and day out on these small roads, it seems like a big state. And nobody has covered more meetings in this state than this gentleman right here. So I want to thank Matt Mayberry for things in the state. And thank you for coming. Senator Avon, thank you. I see our county attorney, Dennis Hogan. All right,
Okay.
I see our friends at Granite Rock here are busy chronicling what's going on here. And I see many friends that I've met before and some that I haven't met before. And I would be remiss without thanking the Fulchinos for opening up their beautiful business. So this isn't, the last group that I spoke to wasn't a small crowd. Yesterday I actually had the honor of speaking before Donald Trump at his event in Bedford. And I can tell you this, it's very interesting when you're speaking to a large crowd, but it's always more personal when you speak to a group of your friends. So, this is actually one of my more favorite venues here. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Jim Lawrence. I'm running for Congress because Washington is broken. The people of the 2nd Congressional District in New Hampshire sent Ann Custer down to Washington to do one thing: provide solutions and support the voters in this great city. And instead, she went down to Washington and did something completely different. She didn't vote for the people of the state, and she started supporting the party bosses in Washington. And it's time for us to have new leadership in Washington. I served 3 terms in the New Hampshire State House. I'm also an Air Force veteran, proud graduate of the United States Air Force Academy, small businessman, but more importantly, proud family man and parent of 8 wonderful children. And I couldn't look my children in the eye, knowing that I stood by and did nothing, while Washington, D.C. spent their future prosperity away. Does anyone here know what the national debt now sits at?
Close to 20 trillion, right?
That's correct. Almost $20 trillion in counting. That's $60,000 for each and every American. Even our children. That's not a burden that we should leave to future generations. And unfortunately, our federal government doesn't just stop there. They're continuing to overregulate and overtax our small businesses, which we know are the economic engine of this great nation. We're standing here in one of the front lines of growing our economy. A small business that struggles with taking care of their day-to-day tasks. A small business that struggles with making payroll, with paying bills, keeping up with regulations, both at the federal and state level. And it grows and grows every day. I know, I'm a small business owner myself. I've seen personally, firsthand, how the federal government not only drives up the cost of doing business by increasing taxes, but drives up the cost of small business particularly in trying to comply with all of the rules, regulations, and laws that they pass year in and year out. Our economy is not suffering because of competition or because of a lack of a labor pool or because of price competition. It's suffering because our government is damaging the very businesses that we're expecting to help grow the economy. Where's our Representative Ann Custer while all this is going on? She's not voting for us. She's supporting the current administration's failed policies that continue to lead America down the wrong path. She votes with the current administration over 95% of the time. It's got to stop. Does anyone here feel safer than they did 8 years ago?
No.
I know. How about 4 years ago? We have the worst foreign policy in decades. Our allies don't feel like they can depend on us, and our enemies certainly do not fear us. We see evidence of this all over the world, with ISIS-sponsored terrorist attacks abroad against our allies, and even right here in our home. Our enemies are emboldened. We just offered Iran the sweetheart deal of the century. We've traded them cash for hostages. We've returned money to help the #1 state sponsor of terrorism around the world on the current administration's watch. I might add that our Representative Custer has wholeheartedly supported the Iran deal. It's time for a change. It's time for us to have leadership in Washington that's going to support us, not our enemies. Representative Ann Custer had an opportunity to support our veterans. Has anyone seen her latest ad where she's got the veterans praising her about how much she supports them? I want to know where Ann Custer was when our veterans were waiting for the health care we promised them at the VA. While she was down in D.C. sitting on her committee voting against the Veterans Accountability Act, the very piece of legislation that was supposed to bring accountability into the VA and prevent these types of atrocities from happening. She wasn't there. And I don't need to ask a veteran. I am a veteran. And I want a representative in Washington that is going to give more than lip service to solving the problems that our veterans face day in and day out. Has anyone traveled recently? How was your flight? I mean, did you go through a security screening? Was that a smooth process for you, Matt? No. It never is it? We already talked about whether we're safer or not now. But the unfortunate thing is our federal government seems to have lost its way. We have organizations like the TSA that are so overgrown and bloated with the big bureaucracy of the federal government, but they can't seem to figure out how to do anything efficiently or effectively. It's time for new leadership in Washington. You know, it's interesting. There is one thing that I can honestly say that I did enjoy that our Representative Ann Custer did. Did anyone see what her response was to try and fight ISIS-sponsored terrorism after the Orlando shooting? Anyone notice what she did?
She sit down.
Yeah, she participated in a sit-in in the Capitol. So our Representative Ann Custer believes that the way to target and fight ISIS-sponsored terrorism around the world is to take our Second Amendment rights away. And she thought it would be a dignified position to take to sit down on the Capitol floor in protest. Now, that happens to be my favorite picture of our Representative Ann Custer. Because to me, that picture represents exactly what she's been doing for 2 terms.
Sitting down on the job.
She's been sitting down on the job. How did you know? Isn't it time that we had a representative that would stand up for us? I can go on and on and on about why we need new leadership in Washington right now. But you know what? I don't think I need to. Because I think it's very clear to the voters of New Hampshire. It's clear to them that our representative hasn't been doing the job that we sent her down there to do. And it's clear that we have a choice. We have an alternative that is willing to lead on day one. So tonight, I ask for your support. Tonight I ask for your vote. I ask for you to stand with me so that I can go to Washington and stand up for you, the voters of the great state of New Hampshire. Thank you.
NHGOP TV.